Welcome. In front of me is the Xiaomi Redmi Note 12 Pro Plus 5G. These names are getting a little bit too long, but today I'll go over unboxing of this phone along with a quick overview, and I'll also be comparing it to the cheaper version of this device, which is just the 12 Pro, not Plus. Anyway, let's pop it straight open. Okay, so there's our device. Now, to get started with the specs right here, the display right here is a 6.67-inch OLED display. It has 120 Hz refresh rate, Dolby Vision, HDR10 Plus, and a peak brightness of 900 nits. And just quickly find the language. There we go. Now, pixel density is at 395 and screen to body ratio at 86.8%. Now, just to kind of compare this right away with the cheaper version of this device, the display right here is roughly the same. There is almost no difference right here whatsoever between the display, the type, the refresh rate, the specifications, almost all the same. The only difference is, I believe, nope, it's not even bigger. Never mind. So that's not even a difference. So it's all the same, at least the display right here. Now moving down into the internals, we have a Dimensity 1080 as our processor on this device. So the processor right here is really good. Now in terms of performance and comparing it to other ones, it's somewhere in between the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 and 8 Gen 2, roughly in between. So the processor right here is basically flagship level, super fast. It should have no problem with basically anything that you throw at it, even gaming. So if you do like heavy gaming, this processor should handle it without a problem. Now, into storages, we have two options for this device. We have 256 gigs of storage with 8 gigs of RAM and 256 storage with 12 gigs. So actually we have only choice between either 8 or 12 gigs of RAM, with both options having the same 256 storage. Now to quickly check the tray, I can already tell you it most likely won't have a expandable storage. There we go. So it's just a SIM card on both sides. No expandable storage. So if you need more than 256, you're kind of out of luck here with this device, which is a little bit of a shame considering this is their basically top of the line phone. So Note 12 Pro Plus, and it's a little bit more odd considering the lower end version of it, the 12 Pro, has more options, though none of them surpasses the 256 12 gigs. So I want to point that out. But you can go lower with 128 gigs of storage, and yeah, so basically half the storage of this, while this one only has the 256. Now, additionally, with that being said, even though this is the more expensive version of this phone, of the Note 12s, it still comes with UFS 2.2 storage. So they didn't even bother including in the Pro version, or Pro Plus, sorry, the 3.1 UFS storage. Now, just to give you an understanding, the newest and highest end storage right now for at least Androids is the UFS 4.0, which the new Samsung Galaxies S23 utilize. Now, the previous flagship, which most of the flagship phones were using, was the UFS 3.1. This is using a more mid-range storage, the 2.2. So in this kind of aspect, it is going to be a little bit slower with 4K videos, and it can record at 4K 30 frames max. So it might be a little bit slower in terms of read and writes on with this kind of footages, as an example. Compared to other devices with the same processor, but just faster storage. So a little bit of a bummer, and also it's the same storage type that is on the cheaper version of this device, the Note 12 Pro. Now, I already talked about fact that we can record at 4K right here. So let's just touch upon the cameras actually. So the main sensor right here is a 200 megapixel wide sensor f1.7. Then we got an 8 megapixel f2.2 ultra wide and a shit camera, a 2 megapixel macro. I'm not even gonna touch upon this one. It's an absolute atrocity included on this device at basically for no reason, I would say. And just to clarify this, the Note 12 Pro, the cheaper version, also has that camera. Now that's where the differences actually start to appear between the Pro Plus and the Pro. This one comes with a 200 megapixel wide sensor for as your shooter, while the lower end version of this comes with only a 50 megapixel, and that's at the moment, from the things that I listed, the only difference, with the main sensor being basically 200 instead of 50. Now at the front we have a 16 megapixel f2.5 wide sensor, which can shoot at 1080p 30 and 60. And at the back you can shoot at 4K 30, 1080p 30 60 and slow motion at 120, and 720p slow motion of 960 frames per second. So again, all the other cameras, the front and the back, are basically identical apart from the main one, which is 200 instead of the 50. Now, battery in here is a 5000 milliamp hours, which is the same one as it is on the lower end version of this device. And they advertise that it can charge the device to 100% in 19 minutes. This is their advertised charging speeds. Now, we do get a insanely good charger right here, 120 watts. That is just super good. And that is another place where these two devices differ. So the Note 12 Pro comes with a 67 watt charger, and they're advertising it that it will charge to 100% in, let me just quickly find this, 100% in 46 minutes up compared to this in 19. So that is a massive difference. And this the battery that we have right here is identical to the other one. So the only difference is in the charging speeds and the provided charger. So there we go. Now going into the build quality right here, we have a Gorilla Glass 5 front as our display. Then we have a glass back, which doesn't really state what it is, so I have no idea. And we have a what looks like a plastic frame. Yep, that's plastic frame. So that's a little bit on the cheaper side with the plastic frame. Now, worth mentioning things that I didn't mention yet. We have a fingerprint sensor on the side as a power button. At the top we have a headphone jack, which is a rarity, especially at what would be considered as a flagship device. Speaker grills, microphone, and an IR blaster. Now this is used for instance, controlling devices that come with a remote control, like your AC as an example, TV boxes, and other appliances that basically come with a IR remote control. You can pair it up with this device and then use this phone as a remote to control all of these devices with just a single phone. Now at the bottom we also have speaker grills, charging port Type-C, microphone, and our SIM tray. As you've seen before, we have dual SIM card support and no SD card support. And that's about it. Now, to finish this off, this device comes at a price of $469 US. Nice. And I have to say, just to kind of because not sure how I want to approach this, because the device is good for the price. So if this was the only phone that they had at this like price range and this specifications, it would have been already a fantastic device. But they have a phone that I would say overshadows this one, which is a higher end model and is also cheaper. So like I was saying from the beginning, the Note 12 Pro, this is the cheaper version of it, might not look as premium, but in the parts where it matters, like the display, the charging speeds, although the charging speeds are a little bit slower, but the battery capacity is the same, the display is the same, the processor is the same. The only difference would be the camera as 50 megapixel instead of the 200, but chances are it won't be as noticeable difference in terms of photos, maybe just in the resolution. It's something that you might want to test out. I don't really touch upon too much on the camera side just because it's not something that I can comfortably define myself. I'm not a photographer. I don't know how to take good photos with any kind of camera, so I don't want to give you any kind of recommendations instead of in terms of the camera. That is something that I recommend you do your research on your own and see which one you prefer more. But when it comes down to everything else, apart from the cameras, I would probably recommend going for the cheaper version of this phone, like this one, just because it offers almost exactly everything the same as the more expensive one, while costing $100 less. And for $100, you get almost identical device, and you're only paying for the faster charger. So instead of 67 watts, you get 120, and you get what was it? Oh, the 200 megapixel camera instead of the 50. Those are the two noticeable differences that you will have. One more thing that I'll mention is this. The Pro Plus comes with only one variant in terms of storage with 256, and you have either 8 or 12 gigs of RAM, while the cheaper version, the Note 12 Pro, has several more. At the very lowest end, it has 128, which is half of what this one offers, and 6 gigs of RAM instead of the 8 that this one offers at the lowest end. And goes all the way up to 256 12 and also 256 8 gigs. So in both cases, these overlap. The 12 Pro has just more options that will make this device a little bit more affordable. So there we go. Those are all the differences, and because of that, the differences are fairly minuscule right here, and that's why I would probably recommend saving a little bit of money and going for the cheaper option, just because it is basically as good, if you don't mind obviously sacrificing just the charging speed. But keep in mind, 67 watts charging 100% in 46 minutes, it's really good. That is already like stupidly good. Pushing it to 120 and charging your phone in 19 minutes to full, that is insane. Basically, it's like basically top, but the question is, do you really need that kind of charging speed? If you don't, like I said, go for the lower end. Now, with this being said, if you found this very helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.